when you register for a pet portrait workshop with me, you will be provided a line drawing, and you can print this out at home and transfer it to your watercolor paper. I'd like to show some methods for transferring your tracing onto your watercolor paper. So let's say I've given you your line drawing, you've printed it out, and you are ready to go. How are you going to get this drawing onto your paper? Obviously, you can draw it. You can just look at it and draw it. That is one way. We will not be focusing on drawing in my class. We really want to focus on watercolor. So this is something that you do need to do in advance. We will not have time to stop and wait for anybody to make their sketch. So there's the tracing method you can do where, and this is something that I have not tried. However, I've watched several YouTube videos on this. It's where you find a window with very bright light coming in. You place your line drawing behind your watercolor paper and you put this up against the window, and if the light is bright enough you can see your sketch behind the paper and you can go ahead and trace it on. So that's one way. Another way that I actually have used many times is the tracing method using graphite paper. So here are two different types of graphite transfer paper. I'm not sure which one I preferred more. This one does have more of waxiness to it and was a little bit harder to erase, because you do not want your lines to be too dark. You really don't want your lines to be seen through the watercolor. So this one that has a little bit more of a waxy finish to it is a little bit harder, but it does work. And then there's also this one, and my students did find that they like this one better. So you just need to go find what works for you. If you're buying it online, read the reviews, see what people say about it. I found both of these at Hobby Lobby. So what you do, and I'm going to use this one as an example. This side is not the side that will transfer, but this side is. So you want the black side or the gray side to be what makes contact with your watercolor paper. That's really important. And then you're going to place your sketch directly on top of that. So you're making a sandwich. This part is really important. You're going to want to use some of your tape to tape everything down so that it doesn't move as you're making your sketch. Keep in mind that any pressure at this point that you put on this is going to rub off onto your watercolor paper. So just be aware of that. And I'm also going to go ahead and tape it down to the desk, just so that things don't move around. And then how you make this work is you can take a pencil or a pen or a fun trick, even a white gel pen, and you just go ahead and trace over these lines. I like to start in the corner and work my way this way because, like I said, any pressure that you're putting on this, if you scratch it or anything, you're going to transfer some of that graphite onto your paper. And less is better. So I like to start up here, and at first it's good to see how much pressure you need in order to get that transfer. So let's just check that. This is kind of tricky. Let me make sure that these two stay good and sandwiched together. Okay, I should probably press a little bit darker. And this isn't rocket science. I am going to switch to a pen. It doesn't have to be perfect either. This is just to give you your basic outline. And I will mention that a lot of these little areas that are lighter, they're just going to be hairs. So you don't even need to add them if you don't want. And even though we are going to be doing this tracing, I still think that learning how to sketch and knowing how to draw is really important. So this shouldn't be the end-all be-all for your art practice. I just want to give you an idea. I really feel strongly about the eyes. The eyes are the window to the soul. The eyes are where we're going to be putting the most detail. The rest of it can be flowy and loose and messy, but the eyes and the nose, in my opinion, are where I like to be the most precise. So when we're doing our sketch, that's where we want to make sure that we're the most precise. So that is why I've added in little highlights. And if you look at your provided reference image, you will note the white highlights in the dog's eyes. So make sure to leave those in so that we can get the most realistic looking eye that we can. So let's pretend I sketched this whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. So do you see how I made that transfer? And then you can take your kneaded eraser. If it's too dark, you can lift some of that color, which is really, really nice. But if you push really hard, you may end up with a darker line drawing than you prefer. So just play around with it. And if you want to practice this before you actually get started on your actual watercolor paper, that might be a good idea if you're not experienced with this. Okay, I hesitate to mention this, but one final way that I just remembered how to transfer a line drawing, or even just if you print out a photo or something and you want to make a sketch or a tracing of it on your watercolor paper. One final way that you can do that, and I learned this probably in first grade, is flip it over to the back and take a pencil. You probably wouldn't want to do this with a mechanical pencil because it would take a very long time. But just grab a pencil and you're going to, pushing pretty good, I'm going to go ahead and just cover it with graphite. It's the same concept as using the graphite paper you purchase from the store, but this is just like the budget friendly, last minute, I don't have time for graphite paper option. This works, by the way. Let me just show you. See if we can line this little guy up with my previous tracings. Probably not, but okay. So you're going to tape it down. Theoretically, please tape it down. But now I can go ahead and this is just for educational purposes. There we go. Now I'm going to show you. See, we've got transfer. We've got transfer. I mean, honestly, wherever you do this, you're going to get a very light transfer. It's probably kind of hard to see. But it works. Does the job. Good to go. One more method that I would like to... Okay, I'd like to show you an app that I use and that I prefer. So the app that I'm going to use today is called Vinci Eye. So first what you do is you click Draw. Then it's going to show you your photo album. And you're going to choose the image that you would like to draw. I like to choose classic mode. And there you go. It gives you a see-through image. And then you can place it on a tripod arm. You can also put it on just an upside down glass. I've done that. And then you're just going to position it where you want it above your watercolor paper here. And I've got my paper taped down to a desk. It's really important to secure it so it doesn't move around while you're trying to trace. You can move the picture. You can zoom it in and out wherever you want it. And you can also move the whole thing once you have it where you want it. And then you can choose the opacity of the image. Okay. So one of the things that I like to do with this is I like to make sure where the top of the dog's going to be, make sure it's going to fit on the paper. It's really important. The next thing I'm going to do is I usually start on the eyes first, and I can zoom in. Everything's being zoomed in right now, the paper and the image. And then from there, you can just begin your trace. And this does take a little bit of skill. It's kind of an eye-hand coordination situation, but it's just one way to get that sketch down on your paper and make sure you're getting everything in the right spot. Like I said, this isn't an end-all be-all. It is important to learn how to sketch and to practice sketching. But for the purpose of our workshop, this is what we're going to do. I will post the link to this app in the notes, and hopefully that was helpful. You can ask me any questions that you might have in the comments, and I will happily answer them.